11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Apparently, a podcast where we discuss pop culture and politics and a bunch of other stuff. Okay, so we're now on to episode 5. And yeah, the general election took place 2 days ago. It's now Saturday, the 6th of July. The results officially, I think, came in. I think we were just waiting for one more seat. But yeah, we now have a Labour government, a super majority. Labour have won a landslide election. They've got a total of 412 seats right now, which is a pretty big deal. The Conservatives were completely and utterly thrashed. They lost about 250 votes, and now they've got, no, not 250 votes, 251 seats, and they've now got 121 seats. So it's very different election for the Conservatives this time around, very different to 2019. Um, as you can tell from my voice, I'm not super happy with the Labour supermajority for many reasons, which we're going to get into in this episode. I'm joined by my co-host Ladan. Yeah,
Hello.
how are you
Yeah,
feeling?
it's it's mixed feelings. To be honest with you, I feel better than I expected to feel because obviously I'm not enthused by a Labour majority either, especially considering all of the U-turns that Keir Starmer has done over the past, I would say, 2 years. Because he lulled us into a false sense of security when he got elected as Labour leader, and then backtracked on pretty much everything that he stood for in 2020. And has obviously purged so many good candidates like Jeremy Corbyn, Faiza Shaheen, and he tried to get our girl, Miss Diane. But you come at the Queen, you better not miss. But even still, um, the Labour Party is not the Labour Party that I joined when I was 16. Um, it's
Yeah, it's pretty. I don't know. This is what you call coping. What we're doing right now, coping,
copium.
copium and cesium. But yeah. So just on a personal note, we both voted for Andrew Feinstein in the Holborn and St. Pancras constituency, and he did pretty well, even though he didn't win. He was an
He did
independent.
very well. He did very well. So Keir Starmer was very lucky to inherit this seat because it's a solid Labour seat. We had Frank Dobson for a number of years, a great MP, and it's such a shame that his legacy has been tarnished by Sir Keir Starmer. Um, Keir Starmer in the last election in 2019, I think had over 36,000 votes. In this election, he won 18,884. So that's down by 17%. It's massive, massive. And Andrew Feinstein, our boy, managed to come in second, which I think is huge for an independent candidate that had next to no funding. We were part of a lot of the campaigning. I mean, you campaigned quite a bit. I lied. I didn't campaign at all.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like, you didn't do shit. All you did was vote, which is a good thing. But
But I was in the groups and I saw the energy that a lot of the volunteers had, and these are just ordinary people who rallied around Andrew, who's a brilliant anti-apartheid campaigner, worked with Nelson Mandela, and I think his day job is dealing with investigating illegal arms sales. So like a good person.
and I
Uh,
believe he resigned from the ANC to protest against corruption in the party. So um he's got form for this kind of thing. But yeah, so I had an interesting time campaigning for Andrew Feinstein up until the very last minute, handing out leaflets. And most of the people were very enthusiastic that we spoke to. There were a couple of Karens that were very dismissive of us, quite rude, but they got what they wanted at the end of the day. But it is very embarrassing for a prime minister to have cut his majority in half I believe. Or actually, no,
Well,
no. Yeah, yeah.
20%, well, almost
Yeah,
20%.
no, but to go from 36,000 to 18,000 votes is embarrassing for a prime minister. That does not happen. Speaking of prime ministers, though, the good news was Liz Truss lost her seat. She was the prime minister of the United Kingdom. I think was it like for like 40 days? I'm pretty
44 days.
44 days.
She lasted less time than a head of lettuce.
Yeah. So that was some good news. It was good seeing her lose. But yeah, just to look at the state of play with the total Labour votes, I've got a stat in front of me. In 2017, when Jeremy Corbyn was in charge of the party, Labour got 12 million, almost 13 million votes. And then 2019, when Corbyn was still in charge, over 10 million votes. And then now, Keir Starmer being the leader of the Labour Party, Labour won 9,634,399 votes, which is a sign that Labour didn't win based on Labour's own merits. They won because the Conservatives were so awful. And it also shows that Corbyn was a far more popular leader of the Labour Party.
I mean,
Um,
this is all the Labour Party, the Labour right wing party's strategy. So 2019, with all the leaks that came out, the sabotage that they were doing, they were intentionally funneling funds away from Labour's marginals and pumping them elsewhere just to sabotage the party's chances of success under Jeremy Corbyn. And in this election, they were again funneling money away and efforts away from seats that they had a chance of winning. There were some seats that were swinging over to Reform. There were seats that are traditionally Labour strongholds, which they paid no effort to hold on to. Keir Starmer's being the best example of that. Where was that guy? Where was he?
I did not see him once. So when it came to Holborn and St Pancras constituency, at the beginning of the election campaign, some idiot left, tried to knock on my door, and I wasn't like rude or hostile to them, but I just said I'm not voting Labour. That was the only time someone did. Whereas the Feinstein campaign, we were everywhere. We were talking to people, we were knocking on doors, we were at community centres, we were at mosques, we were everywhere. So I feel like Andrew's campaign has been vindicated. I think it's a sign that all we need is one more election and Keir Starmer will be voted out of Holborn and St
Oh
Pancras.
yeah.
But um, I don't know too much about voting systems. I know that we have first past the post, and I know that that's not a very fair and just system. I know there's a lot of people who talk about proportional representation, and I do think this election is a sign of why we desperately need something more proportionate. Um, so, for example, Labour won 34% of the vote share out of all the other political parties and independents, so 34%. But then they got 63% of the seat share, which is outrageous. I think that's a sign of a very corrupt system. So to win 34% of the popular vote and then to win 63% of the seats in parliament is not
Same.
fair. What do you make of that?
It just takes me back to 2019, which is probably the last time that I cried hot tears, which is waking up not waking up to seeing that exit poll at 10 o'clock, um and seeing that we were projected to win less than, was it less than 250 votes? It was shocking because I saw the energy of everyone being so enthusiastic about Corbyn's manifesto. It was the most hopeful manifesto I think we'll ever see. But the fact that we, Labour, I'm no longer a member of the Labour Party, had more votes, more of the vote share, more votes, and we were projected to lose so badly is just testament to how corrupt the system is.
Yeah, I mean, there is another sign of how disproportionate it is. The Green Party got 7% of the overall vote share, and they only got 1% of the seat share. But let's talk about the good news about the Green Party. They
Yeah.
won 4 seats. Now, the Green Party in the United Kingdom, they always have been known to just have Brighton Pavilion, I believe. They've
Yeah.
always been known to just be a one-seat party. So to go from 1 seat to 4 seat to quadruple their seat share is just so inspiring. And I, for one, am really happy for Carla Denia.
Oh yeah, I was so happy to see Thang. Oh, I want to get it right. Thangnam Debonair lose. Did you see that it's become a meme now of her sulking watching the votes come in,
Do you know what? She
not even
sulked.
attempting to look
No, no,
gracious.
no. She sulked at the beginning, but then, and I remember thinking, gosh, she's such a sore loser. But then afterwards, she did give a speech to her campaigners, and she did actually congratulate Carla, her opponent, and she did say that Carla's going to do a great job. So she did
Okay.
surprise me there.
I will say
Um,
one thing about Thangnam though, her haircut is very cunty.
she looks, I was thinking about that today and watching a video of her. She looks like her haircut is basically Whitney Houston in the It's Not Right, but It's Okay
I
video.
love it. I love it. That's her one redeeming feature is her haircut.
She's got the bob. She's got the bob. Very cunty, very, very cunty.
We love it.
A bit more proportional for the Liberal Democrats, the party that I do not understand. I just don't understand them.
I don't understand them. Who are they serving? And I just want to meet a passionate Lib Dem because I want to know what are they passionate about.
I
Being
think they're passionate
being
about
useless.
being, yeah, useless, and I'll never forgive them for snaking us in 2010 and joining the, what do you call it, the coalition. But they won 12% of the vote share and 11% of the seat share. So that's good news for them and Ed Davey. Ed Davey, who I think should be in prison for what he did to the postal workers. He had a part to play in. Um, I need to look into it a little bit more. I don't know why I said he should be in
I
prison,
was
but
gonna say, what did
I
he
know
do
I know he
now?
did something wrong.
All right,
Apparently
we've got to
known
say apparently.
apparently he's a criminal, and yeah, I think he had a job when he was in the constituency, no, not in the
Oh,
coalition,
oh,
related to the,
I
let
found the
me read it
evidence.
out because
Yeah.
apparently we're quite ignorant.
Okay. No, no, no. Apparently you were right. Maybe. So Sir Ed Davey advised the postal minister in 2010 to meet a post office campaigner to avoid bad publicity. So obviously, the post office scandal where a lot of postmasters were unfairly and illegally imprisoned because of some IT bug which Horizon and the post office managed to cover up, and a lot of these poor post masters and mistresses were locked up for some of them for months and a year, up to a year, um, because of a bug. And instead of being open and honest
They were
that they'd
accused of
messed up,
stealing post, right? And stealing stuff.
stealing money and basically shortchanging the tills because of a fault in the Horizon Fujitsu IT system, and they weren't open and honest about it. So it looks like apparently, don't sue us, Ed Davey. Uh, Ed Davey was part of perhaps the cover up.
Yeah, so I don't
Let's
understand the Liberal Democrats. I have to make a confession though. In 2010, when I was 18 years old, I did vote for them for my first election because I was a
What was
would-be,
it?
I was about to be in
Cleggmania?
Clegg Mania. I was hypnotized by Nick Clegg. And I met that motherfucker twice. He lied to my face the first time and said that he would not increase tuition fees. I'm pretty sure their whole MO was getting rid of tuition fees, but they
I'll
joined the
never forget that
coalition.
picture of you standing side by side with him.
I had my arm around him. I was gripping his neck. I was gripping his neck.
I could see him hoodwinking you in that picture.
Yeah, no, that was actually the funny thing is that the picture of me gripping his neck and holding him was after he snaked us. I just loved. I'm a genuine groupie when it comes. I used to be a groupie when it came to politicians, but not anymore. But back to Labour's share of the vote, just so we can look at, the whole idea of Corbyn allegedly ruining the party. He did not. So in 2015, when Ed Miliband was the leader of the Labour Party, Labour won a measly 30% of the share of the vote. And people see Ed Miliband as one of the sensible people. He wasn't seen as a complete and utter loser, which he was. And then, so that's 30%. 2017, what a magical year for the left. So Corbyn, when he was in charge, Labour won 40 of the vote share. That was magical. And then 2019, 32% of the share of the vote with under Corbyn. That was supposedly seen as a disaster. But now in 2024, 34% of the share of the vote under Keir Starmer. So only a 2% difference. So I'm not sure why.
It's because of the way that the Labour Party machine intentionally sabotaged Corbyn in 2019, funneling money away from seats that we could have won, and drip feeding the media with that bad press around Corbyn and the chaos. I'll never forget that night or that day where a bunch of the cabinet were just resigning. They were after him from the start. Um, and now
Many of them set up an independent party, and no one ever accused them of betraying the Labour Party.
losers like
Lose
Chuka Amuna,
Chuka
um,
Amuna, and then actually it was cross-party, Anna Soubry as well. I think it was called
Loser
Change UK.
Lush,
I'll never forget
apparently.
that embarrassing picture. Sorry, could you repeat that?
And Anna Soubry is apparently a lush.
Is that an alcoholic?
Yeah,
Yeah, Anna Soubry is
apparently.
just a complete and utter waste of space. Just a freak. Lefties and right wingers hate her equally, which so that's
She's
definitely
just
the
a
wash.
loser.
Yeah, she's just a loser. But I wouldn't be surprised if Keir Starmer invites her to join the Labour Party.
Yeah.
And probably give
Invite her to the bar.
yeah, invite her to the bar. But yeah, so 34% share of the vote under Keir Starmer in 2024, 2017 under Corbyn, 40%. So Corbyn was a successful leader. But okay, so now let's look at what we're happy about. Let's start with the positive.
I mean, there's still some things that I'm quite sad about. And maybe I'm sad about it and I'm happy about it at the same time. Leanne Mohammed.
That is an example though of what I'm happy about. Leanne Mohammed, a British Palestinian,
23 years old.
23-year-old young woman, a local from Ilford, so in her own constituency, she went up against Wes Streeting, who is now our health secretary, and that
Who's a proponent of privatizing the NHS.
exactly he's a corrupt man, and he's also just a very dishonest person. But she was just over 500 votes from winning, and I
528.
see that as a successful loss. I see it as obviously technically a loss, but what an inspiring result. And I know that she will win, God willing, next time. I really do.
Yeah. I hope that she funnels this energy into a movement. And part of me is thinking, is it wise for us to have a whole bunch of independent candidates separated from each other? Because Andrew Feinstein and Leanne Mohammed, for me, were the absolute stars of this election. People who gave me genuine hope. People who have principles that I would love to have seen in the Labour Party, and remind me so much of the enthusiasm and optimism of the Corbyn agenda in 2017 to 2019. Is it wise for them to be operating as independents, or should we be mobilizing this energy into a political party? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it would be good to build a coalition of sorts among people who are not just like pro-Gaza independence, but people who are at least a genuine opposition to the neoliberal establishment politics that we have in the UK and we've had for a very, very long time, not just for the past 14 years, but I would say since Tony Blair was the star of the show. So yeah, so it was, but you know what? It was inspiring to see so many pro-Palestine successes at the
Yeah.
election. So and that has a lot to do with the political participation of the British Muslim community.
Something that pissed me off about that was seeing a journalist at the Tory Graph, the Daily Telegraph, saying that the election of these four pro-Palestinian independent MPs from Muslim majority areas is a sign that integration has failed, which is
Yeah,
basically saying that Muslims voting for principles that they believe in is a sign that they haven't quite integrated to the British brand of genocide
I
that
mean,
the
it's the
Telegraph buys into.
biggest display of integration is us British Muslims participating in the political process. So that's just racist Islamophobic. It's not even dog whistle at this point. It's just
And it's a
pure,
bark.
yeah, it's a dog bark. But and again, it goes back to the double standard because when the British Jewish community were angry at Jeremy Corbyn, there was a lot of media attention legitimizing the grievances of British Jews who were upset with Jeremy Corbyn. That wasn't
And
seen as,
they voted in the ballot in alignment with those principles that they felt.
yeah, I
But when
mean,
Muslims do it, it's a sign that we're not integrated.
exactly. No, it's just pure racism. And let's be honest, it's because Islam is predominantly a religion practiced by people of color and people from the global south. So we're always going to be seen as a fifth column in this country. And yeah, but at the same time, it's good to see the haters coping with the fact that Muslims have a voice. I'm pretty sure someone was actually publicly arguing for changing the boundaries of certain constituencies to make sure that Muslims, because they were calling our vote a sectarian vote, which is
Yes.
just, yeah.
That's so interesting. So interesting. When we vote according to the feelings we have around conflicts around the world, like in Gaza, like in Sudan, etc., like in Iraq, for instance, it's sectarian. But those no one is saying that about the people who voted Green, for instance, in areas that are predominantly white. Um, the Greens did really well in this election, and I think we're focusing too much on the brown vote. But the Greens have done really well in this election of being quite clear in their demands around Gaza, in calling for an investigation into the genocide, in supporting calls for a ceasefire right at the start. But the people who voted for the Greens in places like, was it Hertfordshire, where they won an MP? Um,
Herefordshire, I think, not
Herefordshire,
Hertfordshire, but yeah.
not a predominantly Muslim
And
area.
she overturned, I think,
Right.
like a 25,000 vote majority.
Yeah, but no one is subscribing that to the Gaza issue. I think Gaza played a bigger role in this election than a lot of people are willing to admit, and not just in Muslim majority areas. A lot of people have switched off from politics because they're seeing blatant double standards, and I really don't want them to hijack this issue as a Muslim issue or a Pakistani issue or, you know, a sectarian issue. Come to any march and you'll see that the vast majority of the people there are white.
We've seen the
Uh,
demographics change. At the beginning, when it was October, it was mostly black and brown people protesting, and now
yeah.
it's mostly white people protesting because, shock horror, most people are against genocide and killing children. But yeah, sorry, I just coughed there. It's been still some good news. Five independent candidates who are explicitly pro-Palestine and anti-genocide won. So obviously the main guy is Jeremy Corbyn winning in Islington North, and the other four independent candidates who got their seats, who nicked it from Labour, include, and my favourite one is Shokat Adam,
Oh, so happy with
from
that.
Leicester South, because if you listen to our last episode, he took the seat from Jonathan Ashworth, a racist Zionist who was basically calling for the deportation of British Bangladeshis in Britain, which is just bizarre.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
As did Keir Starmer. It was a clear party message that was being filtered out into the press. So random, but picking on Bangladeshis because they're not the top five population that migrate to the UK. But it's very targeted. It's a massive dog whistle to
but
basically
not
say,
just that, it was just so silly for both of them to do that where they were MPs for constituencies that have a predominant, maybe not just Bangladeshi, but predominantly South Asian population. But so,
remember what was said? Remember what was said when a lot of people said, now that you're going back on the policies of Corbyn, now that you're purging the party of the left, now that you're blatantly chasing after the reform racist vote, we're not going to vote for you anymore. And a senior figure in the Labour right said, we're shaking off the fleas. And if not us, where else will they go? Well, we told them where we're going to go. We're going to vote for good independence and we're going to vote for green.
Shade
And
the fleas, though, isn't that just magnificent to describe Muslims as fleas? Where have I heard that one before? Describing people. I mean, for the past 10 years, I've heard Muslims described as fleas, cockroaches, people who have, you know, platforms in the British media. So yeah, pretty disgusting. But so Shokat Adam, he won in Leicester South, Ayub Khan in Birmingham Perry Bar, Adnan Hussein in Blackburn, and Iqbal Mohammed in Dewsbury and Batley. So to me, that's a good sign of Muslims showing that we exist, we have a voice. We're angry about the genocide in Gaza. We're also British and we are done with the neoliberal establishment. Same as usual, business as usual politics in the UK.
and it's not just about Gaza as well, because I was following a few of these campaigns, like in Shawkat Adam, and the one in Batley. Is it Batley and Spen? These are very economically deprived areas that have, tribally, I would say, voted Labour for generations. If your parents voted Labour, you vote Labour. And this is not just in the Pakistani Muslim community, this is in the white working class community. The white working class have realised that loyalty to Labour doesn't afford you anything. I mean, loyalty to any party doesn't afford you anything. So the white working class have managed to make the move to reform or conservative. I don't think that's going to help them in any way, shape, or form, but it sends a message. If you ignore us for long enough and don't invest into our areas, then we're going to vote with our feet and vote for another party.
Well, you heard a lot about for years and years Labour's betrayal of the Red Wall, and that was dog whistle for basically Labour betraying the white working class to prioritise the needs of ethnic minorities, which is bollocks. But I'm hoping that the way that we heard about the Red Wall, people start talking about Muslims the same way. What about the Muslim vote? So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm hoping that we start to see more journalists talking about our grievances as well. Because you hear about the Red Wall, you heard about the British Jewish vote. It's now time to talk about the British Muslim vote, to keep things nice and equal. We're going to just take a quick break and then we're going to get into some more election news. All right, we're back. So it's been I think this has been the strangest election of my lifetime. It's just been a mixed bag of sorts. So I was just going to ask you, Ladan, what are your highlights of the 2024 general election?
I mean, the election as a whole, it was seeing the rise of independence, but election night, I would say it was seeing Jess Phillips on the podium acting like a disappointed supply teacher when the crowd were booing her. I don't care for her opponent, the main opponent, Jodie, who is part of the Workers' Party. I think they're a morally repugnant political party. However, I do like to see Jess Phillips squirm, and the hypocrisy that came out in her little spiel where she was saying, I'm a woman, and I don't appreciate this, when she has been the most anti-black, aggressive, bully in
It's okay for
politics.
her to heckle. It's okay for her to say that she told Diane to fuck off, which Diane Abbott denied. It's okay for her to be leery and hostile and aggressive and say that she'd rather stab Jeremy Corbyn in the front, not the back. But yeah, apparently women can't be held accountable because we're such delicate flowers, and politics is a dirty game. If you're able to heckle Nigel Farage, then you should also be able to heckle Jess Phillips. But we're gonna actually let me just quickly play that for you, that clip of Jess Phillips.
She's just scraped in. Jodie.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
See, we're going to continue with the class that we had during the campaign.
Excuse me. Sorry.
It's all right. The election that I have...
This will be a warning. I will be asking people to leave unless we get this completed.
I will carry on with my speech. I understand that a strong woman standing up to you is met with such reticence. Anyway, this election has been... Can you throw them out?
All right, excuse me. Before we have our first speeches, that's...
It's a hand on the hip for me. She would make such a good supply teacher
Not just
in
that,
a city school.
yeah, it was very big supply teacher, no, headmistress vibes, but it was when she said, I could see that a strong woman. It reminded me a lot of Julia Hartley-Brewer interviewing that Palestinian guy,
Yeah.
politician, and said like, oh, so you don't like strong women, because she is saying that to a bunch of British Muslim men, and
Yeah.
I got that vibe from her. You need to definitely check out that Julia Hartley-Brewer interview.
Yeah, it's horrible. She's actually she's barking at him and then saying that any response that he gives back is sexist because
Just
he's
horrible.
a barbaric Arab man.
But
Before we leave, what was your highlight of either the election or the election night?
Okay, so my highlight definitely is Leanne Mohammed. Even though she didn't win, the fact that she's 500 votes away and really did a great job of slashing West Streeting's majority. Andrew Feinstein's grassroots campaign showing that independents can win. That was great. And last but not least, Jeremy Corbyn winning his seat as an independent. When he won, I almost cried.
I almost cried as well. I was just incredible. So happy for him.
But yeah,
I would have hurt myself if he lost.
I would have fucking walked into traffic if he lost. But yeah, because he's a symbol of justice in the United Kingdom, and yeah, he's a light in the dark for the UK. I know that sounds corny, but yeah, so we're gonna talk more about the election in the coming weeks, because we'll see things happening. But yeah, so good luck to Keir Starmer. I don't think he's going to be successful, but inshallah he loses. That's all we've got time for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening.